Hi, welcome to the Conversation Shop. I want to welcome you to the show today. I'm very excited. I have on the show today Mr. Simba Ali. How you doing, Simba?
I'm all good, man. Glad to be on the show. Glad to be on the show.
Oh man, I've been wanting you on the show for a long time, my friend. So I salute you. I welcome you. I send you blessings and love, my brother. So welcome to the Conversation Shop.
Thank you. Thank you. Glad to be here.
What I'd like to do for my audience and for the people out on my Facebook and in social media, why don't you tell them a little bit about yourself, Simba? Tell them, who you are. Tell them about your podcast, and tell them how you and I became friends. Give them a little background on who you are.
Oh, no problem. Okay, well, I'm Simba Ali. You can go follow me on all social media platforms. The number 5IMBA_ALI Ali. And I am a podcaster. I recently got my show on YouTube, the North Star TV, and me and Said got to know each other back in around the middle 2000s. Middle of 2000s. Right around the time before we started to do the Street Kings movement in Minnesota, which was a group that I helped cultivate and start. In that group, my name was Malcolm. I used to, when everybody was running around with the Prada shades and everything, I was like, oh, I want to be different. So I put on the Malcolm X frames and kind of that was my thing. So from there,
Oh yeah.
unfortunately, a lot of my friends got caught up on a bunch of cases that was just trumped up by the state. A lot of, outside forces that I eventually learned had a lot to do with the case. So they end up going away to prison unjustly. And then my best friend who started me in music, Quincy Blue, aka B.C, was murdered in Minnesota. So that kind of detoured my music. I kind of didn't have the feel for music. Me and him was kind of like the back and forth. I would do a song, show him, he would do a song, show me. So once he was gone, and then once I started finding out what music, the hip hop entertainment music was about and for, I really couldn't have my energy put towards that. So I was like, what else can I do? So I started a podcast in my closet, in my uncle's closet. the North Star podcast. I figured it out. Said I got on computer and learned how to cut and paste, drag, save files, and all this stuff, and started a podcast. And
Let's do
I
it,
was doing that
baby.
for about 2.5 years. Got up to about 3,000, almost 4,000 listeners, and just kind of wanted to look to do something that I could monetize where people could actually see me. So I went to YouTube. So that's kind of been a quick thing where I went from the podcasting in my closet to I did an interview with Dr. Umar Johnson.
Yes.
That was a great interview. I got an interview with quantum physicist Jane Barish, which was another good interview.
Yes.
So the podcast was really kind of got me ready for YouTube, which was I'm glad it was kind of like a training ground, if you want to say, got me ready for the verbal part of it. And
Right.
the segment parts of the show all came through the podcast, and now I kind of just took those ideas and put them in front of people visually with YouTube.
Well, great, man. Well, welcome to the Conversation Shop. I'm glad you were able to tell my audience a little bit about yourself. And by all means, please follow and watch the North Star podcast with Simba Ali. Simba, we're going to dive right into the show. Today, we're going to be talking about life as a person of color under the Trump administration or under Trump. And one of the main and one of the main things I wanted to talk about is, self-identification. You know, I'm a black man. I'm an African American man. I'm a Moor. I'm a person of color. I'm all these different things. So I want to talk about, what does it mean to be a person of color, a black man, an African American man, an African American man in America today. And I want to turn the mic over to you first in order to make your commentary, immediate commentary on that. How do you feel about that question? What things come to mind when I ask you, what does it mean to be a black person today? Are you a black man? How do you feel comfortable being called a black man, an African American man? And I go back to what we were discussing behind the scenes, which was, when we come into the world, no one tells us that I'm a black man, you're a Caucasian man. No one tells us about, we come into the world not knowing about color, not identifying or separating ourselves from anything. We're taught to separate ourselves. So is it even true, that definition that we placed upon ourselves? So again, I think we're all, again, you hear the term children of God, but I think that's powerful to say. That means we are godly people, all of us. And all we have to do is look within to see the light within ourselves and to grow and to become enlightened and learn how to live and learn how to treat one another in order to reach that power that we seek in terms of knowing who God is. So again, let me turn the mic over to you and let you comment on that question.
Well, what I feel like being an African American in the Trump administration.
Yes.
To me, it's no different than being well, it's a little different now. Hold on, let me be careful, because I do feel a heightened sense of racial animosity coming from white people that I haven't felt in previous elections or presidency terms. So I will say, as far as my feelings from white people is a little different, but my feeling as African American is the same. They haven't reenacted slavery. I don't have to pick cotton. I don't have to walk around with my freedom papers and nothing like that. There's a little bit more bold white guys running around, but, and I still can do whatever I want to do. I don't really feel the Trump administration is geared towards stopping African Americans. Like I said, I think that it brought out a lot of proud white people that have racist views, but racism in America is hard to separate because it's one and the same. America, it's racism, so.
Let's talk about, you said racist views, right? He brought out, and not to get off task a little bit, but I just want to talk about this a little bit. You brought up that, the Trump and his supporters, he touched a segment of the population that most people that look like you and I may perceive as being racist. There's segments of that population, again, yes, that exhibit very racist overtones. You can call a duck, right? But what I say is that what I say is that you had a underclass of people, right? We don't look at Caucasian Americans as an underclass, right? So we have a segment of people who perceive themselves as the lost, the underclass, right? So we can relate to that, who say they're forgotten, right? They look out into the media. They say they see blackness or people of color everywhere. They see multiculturalism. They see interracial couples. The perception is, and then you have Obama as president, so the perception to the world and in America is that, the African American man, the black man, has made it, and we've been forgotten. We've given everything. So now we have to take America back. We have to, quote unquote, make America great again, because this man is going to bring us back our glory. So I think he tapped into that.
He did the same exact thing that Obama did with, man. I don't understand.
No ends now. No N words.
Oh, I'm sorry. He did the same thing that Obama did with Negroes. Okay. He did the same thing. He played on our Negro spirits. He came off brushing his shoulder to Jay-Z. And then at the end of the day, what did he do for us? Nothing.
Right.
So it's the same thing with Trump. I think Trump is smart. He looked and said, well, let me do the same thing. Let me play on the white piano and get racist white people thinking I'm going to build a wall. Stop it, man. But if it gets you elected, whatever, because Obama had black people thinking he was going to reenact the Martin Luther King. And none of that happened. In Chicago, it was people getting killed left and right in the city he came from. So
let's talk about that a little bit. Most people of color don't want to hear nothing negative about Obama. But let's talk about
stay away from the North Star TV.
Let's talk about that, because let's be real. I agree. To segment off in a lot of places, I agree with you on that. I think it was a symbolic victory. But what we're gonna do before we go into that topic, and hold on to the commentary, we're gonna take a short break. Guys, We'll be right back on the Conversation Shop. Hi, welcome back to the Conversation Shop. I'm here with my very special guest, Mr. Simba Ali. Mr. Simba Ali, say hi to my audience.
Hi, what's up, everybody? How you doing?
Well,
Glad
Simba,
you're
my bad. Well, Simba and I were discussing on the first segment. He gave us some background on himself and how he and I came to know one another. And then we started talking about life as a person of color under the Trump era. From that conversation, we led into discussing Obama. And, I laugh a little bit because when you say Obama, people of color get mad, hair stands up on the top of their head.
here.
You
Hmm.
get called all kind of names. But we're going
Yeah.
to call, on this show, if it looks like a duck, if it walks like a duck, if it talks like a duck, it's a duck. And we're going to call a duck a duck. So, Simba, what I want to discuss with you is, let's talk about Obama, and let's talk about what Obama did and didn't do for African Americans or people of color, because I think there's a misconception of his legacy. You discussed that you feel that Trump did exactly what Obama did. He played to the sensitivities of the underprivileged, the forgotten people, got their support, and did absolutely nothing for them but put them in bad situations.
Right.
And we're suggesting that Trump is doing the exact same thing for people that look like him, uh, whether they're acting out in negative ways, in very racist and discriminatory ways, or if it's business people that are being selfish and only thinking about monetary gains to the demise of everyone else. So again, let's talk about that. You told me, I'm sure you have strong opinions about Obama, so share that with us.
Well, I feel Obama, his energy was totally for the homosexual community and not for the black. Okay, that was my biggest problem. Think about it.
But
Before
no
Obama came,
separate conversation. But go ahead, let it out,
no,
let it
no,
out.
no. I'm just thinking. Think about it,
Hmm.
because I'm saying just like the Trump energy is really for him globalizing and expanding the Trump brand, and
Yes, it
also
is.
whatever he's trying to do with Russia. That's more what his election is about than actually doing anything for white people. Well, with Obama, his real agenda was taking the shackles off somebody, but it wasn't black people; it was the homosexual community. Okay, that's what we took the shackles off of, because prior to Obama, homosexual wasn't as pushed. Now, I'm not against homosexuality as a choice. If that's what people want to choose, that's fine. But Obama made it clear every time he spoke about black, he tied it in. And I want people who watch this show go back and watch Obama's speeches. And anytime he brings up black, he says whether you're black or homosexual, he ties it in together. Two whole different things. Being black is nothing like being a homosexual.
So,
You don't have to know I'm homosexual if I don't want you to know. If I'm black, I can't hide it. The man tan don't come that deep. You know. So
so do you?
that's what I say with Obama, and the way that he was. He was the first African American president. You got duties, bro. I'm sorry. I
Mhm.
mean, don't dance that dance if you're not ready for what comes. We need something better than a bunch of words that rhyme. You had
Right.
the chance to put a woman, you had the chance to put an African American woman on the Supreme Court, and you didn't do it. If you're
Yes.
gonna be
Thank
black,
you
be
for
all the
saying
way.
that. Thank
Yeah,
you for
if you're
saying
gonna
that.
do it all the way, bro. Don't just halfway and be scared. Go ahead and put you a real coalition of people in there, and let's get some things done. Now you can't go fighting the whole slavery thing, but there's a lot of companies that are doing business right now, like uh, Life. What's the life insurance?
New York Life.
New York Life. You got Levi jeans. I looked on the back of Levi jeans. It said been selling cotton since 18 something. Hold on. You've been selling cotton that long. Wait a second. Who was picking that cotton? You know,
Right.
it's a lot of companies that are $1 million, $1 trillion companies that had their start in slavery. And if I'm the president, I can at least go in and say, well, you guys have to put some money back into the communities to redevelop. That's all. Come up with some programs. You know what I mean? That's your job. Your job isn't to push out. Let the first homosexual president fight that fight. When the first homosexual president gets elected, he can fight the fight for them, and I'll champion him from the back. But when we got our president, I don't want to hear nothing
But let
about
me
nothing.
let
But
me
African
dive. Let me jump
American.
right in real quickly. Just
Go ahead.
make a statement real quickly for the audience. We support everybody. Not saying
Yeah.
Simba is talking about separatism, but I want to make that statement. We support everyone. But what I want to talk about, Simba, is do you think that that was for the demasculization of African American or black men. The way that those terms were being used or commingled. I think a lot of people that were in my space kind of saw that as a way for him to build coalitions or try to bring people together, not to exclude different groups, but speak, trying to speak to groups that are segmented and being discriminated against, and just kind of trying to pull them together. So again, going back to your perspective, I feel that there was a coordinated effort, and still you can watch it on television and music videos about demasculizing men, but specifically men of color, in terms of androgyny, all these different things. And again, I'm not saying that there's a perfect way for anyone to live their lives or to love who they want. All I'm saying is we should allow everyone to be who they are without the promotion of one lifestyle over the other.
Right. What we should be, brother, is conscious of the conscious push of something. That's the thing.
I agree.
If people want to be homosexual, that's no problem, fam. Live your life. Nobody has a problem. But when you start putting it in cartoons, and I start to notice that there's a push for this.
Right.
Well, hold on. Then that's when the pushback comes, like, well, hold on. For my child, I might not want him to learn about that lifestyle until he's ready.
But we're
so when you're talking about the
things.
demasculinization of the African-American male, of course. And who are you passing the baton to? You can see how much they're pushing the African-American woman.
Yes.
And I feel that that's a big problem in African-American culture. Is every other culture is ran by the patriarch. Father, grandfather set it up. With African Americans, we're big mama. We're all about big mama. And we're running around here hopped up off emotions and trying to let women tell us what to do. Well, a woman, if you understand, which goes back to interracial dating, when you think about why a black man in America is not to be with a white woman, it's mainly because white men told us that. And another thing is because our mothers told us that. So you got a lot of information when it comes to who and how we're supposed to be combating white supremacy is told to us from not a masculine point of view. It's told to us from a woman's point of view.
Mm-hmm.
How would a man tell us to combat white supremacy? They don't want us to hear that voice.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying?
No, I definitely see what you're saying when it comes to that, and I'm definitely in agreement on that. But also I want to segment from that conversation a little bit and go back into, I think it all comes together into self-identification. What does it mean to be black? What does it mean to be an African American person? What does it mean to be an African American person in this country? So what I mean by that specifically is, for me, as a person of color, as I grow and as I consider myself to become more enlightened, I love black people, African American people, whatever the terminology that you use, because that's the space that I come from. I want to see us rise above our condition, whatever that condition is. And I want to see us go back to the old way of doing things, which is what I want to see everyone do, which is reach back, prepare the way for those that come behind us, to have a commitment to enlightenment, education, not education to assimilate, to be like someone else, for someone to tell us what we should feed our minds with, but feeding our minds with things that you and I have sought out ourselves, Simba, to learn about religion, quantum physics, astrology, the book of Enoch, where Enoch talks about, Genesis, a book before Genesis that tells you about the Garden of Eden, that tells you about the fallen angels, that bridges the gap between certain things. When you look back in history and you see pictures on money, and you see definitions of what Americans look like, and you see pictures of people that look like you and I on the money. And then you understand that Aboriginal people weren't all Mongoloid or Asiatic looking, that also included people of color as well. So we can talk about... We can talk... Go ahead.
I think as far as African Americans now, I think most of us just in my encounter with African Americans, I think we're past the stage of Africans thinking that we don't come from greatness and that white men are the only people that. I think that's what the internet did. So I think that once you're awake to something, I think African Americans' problem now is executing the proper plays to get us out of the hole. That's the hard part for African Americans. The things that we have to do in order to properly set ourselves up as proper competition in the world.
Talk about that a little bit more. What does that mean, Simba, when you say that? Tell me what that actually means.
Well, what it means is African Americans since 1492 or since, we'll say 1776 when America was started, we've rolled the coattails of white people, meaning when white people in America get something, black people, we have it too. And now we're starting to understand that that's not the best way to do it. Everybody else has their own. If you don't have your own, then you have nothing, you know? So now it's on a broader scale. And
now,
with the internet,
hold that thought real quickly. That comment right there just made me think about a conversation we had over the phone, and that conversation was about integration. Your comment made me think about that, and what I meant, my comment about integration was, we gave away the keys, and it goes back to what you said. Everything we saw when we had our own banks, our own schools, communities growing, and not saying that being separated is the best thing, but saying that we had our own identity. And what we did was we thought everything on the other side of the street, everything that didn't look like us, everything that was owned by someone that was Caucasian was better than ours. So once integration came and we could have the same things that quote unquote everybody else had or what they had because we thought it was better than ours, we ran across that street. We left our schools. We left our restaurants. We left our banks. We stopped spending money with ourselves because now even the sicknesses now, you open up a business that serves food, they'll tell everybody in the community that you're using dirty dishes and old meat and that the food isn't good and run right across the street and pay double to someone that doesn't look like them and claim the food is great and it could be killing them. So again, not supporting your own businesses and again, being the largest consumer group, spending thousands and billions of dollars, but not putting that back into our own community. So my question is, what is our responsibility to ourselves first? So why don't you elaborate on that a little bit?
Well, our responsibility to ourselves is to stop waiting on Malcolm X's and Martin Luther King's. That time is over. And I think that gives way for people when you say things like, when you say, well, what about Jay-Z? What is Jay-Z and LeBron James? Shouts out to LeBron for opening a new school. He's setting the standard for what needs to be done. Stop spending your money on strip clubs, Patek watches, Versace, and Lamborghinis, and start rebuilding back into the neighborhoods you come from. But we have to get out of the mindset of waiting for a good speech giver. We want a Martin Luther King, a one leader guy to galvanize us to do the right thing. That's crazy because the rest of the world moves as a collective. And if you're telling me that the African Americans in this country are spending billions and billions of dollars, well, who are the leaders? You can't give away who are the leaders. Who are the African Americans that hold the most ability economically because they're the ones who hold the most responsibility.
Hold that thought. Hold that thought right there. We're going to pick right back on that when we come back from the next break. We'll be right back on The Conversation Shop. Hi, welcome back to The Conversation Shop. I'm here with my very special guest, Mr. Simba Ali. And Simba, we're going to dive right back into this conversation. Right before the break, we were discussing and saying, hey, we can't wait on Malcolm X. There's no more Martin Luther Kings. We can't wait on the Savior. We got to start creating and building ourselves and creating ourselves, being the captain of our own ships. So again, Simba, I'm going to let you dive right in, and I'm going to let you, comment on that. Let's get right back into the conversation.
Yeah, well, I'm just of the belief that waiting on a Malcolm X and waiting on a Martin Luther King and waiting on some kind of form of the leaders from the past enables and gives a scapegoat to the people who we need to make change. I mean, if this was a country ran on speeches, then yes, we need a Malcolm X, we need a Martin Luther King. This country is ran on capitalism. That means money. So that means if I was an alien coming down and I took away all the feelings of slavery and all the feelings we have inside, I would just point to Jay-Z, LeBron James, Oprah, All the black people who are your billionaires and millionaires, these are the people who need to be out pushing the agenda, not you Black Lives Matter people causing marches, and not that.
Right.
Stop the pseudo black movements and get what's real. You
What's
understand what
real?
I'm saying? You have the
Yes.
power to buy politicians. You understand? You have the power to change policy. You have the power to donate to police funds. So when you come walking through, you can point and say, "Where are the black officers around here? I just gave $1.2 million. The lights don't get cut off around here." You know, that's
Right.
the power that we need to be out here doing. So, like I said, the people with the greatest responsibility to help black people are the people with the greatest ability in these economical capitalistic times.
I gotta dive right in on that, because when I hear you make that statement, I always think about, and I say this all the time. I mean, for the first time in history, we have a lot of black billionaires and black millionaires, people of color, not to just talk about black, but people of color, people that look like you and I,
Right.
concerned people that have a lot of money. So when I look out into the world and I look at the news and I go, we have all these poor communities. We have all of these ran down houses in these communities. But at the same time, we have all these professional teams in these communities that aren't going to these low income ran down communities, rebuilding stores, putting their businesses in those communities,
Can I
rebuilding
stop you real quick?
houses. Yes.
And it's crazy you're saying that. I just don't want to lose this thought. I just did a show on the North Star TV talking about this.
Yes.
I was like, black people, we only come from 5 pockets: LA, Detroit, Chicago, Miami, Houston. You mean to tell me that if I was an NFL owner, you better stand for my flag? I just gave you $1 million. I gave him $5 million. I almost just donated $100 million. It's your fault you guys are trying to compete with each other and live in lifestyles of the rich and famous. Because if you guys had the right mindset, all you guys would be going on a trip, talking about setting up businesses, brainstorming, setting up think tanks. You guys could be doing this because I'm giving you money. So obviously, I'm not that against, because they wasn't giving the slaves money like that. When
Right.
you pick cotton, you didn't get a $10 million contract because they were scared of what you might do with that power.
But let's talk about that. Then you got the athletes that are going to the owners to the meetings going, well, you should put money into the communities. You should do this. And I'm going, didn't you just sign a $37 million contract? You mean you can't go put $1 million? If each one of these guys put multi-millionaires put $1 million into their own communities and creating jobs and rebuilding them, we wouldn't be having this conversation. But again, it goes back to the mentality of being an employee instead of being an owner. Instead of being a creator, we want to be the result of a creation. You understand what I'm saying? We want everybody else to do the work. What I'm saying is, let's be our own creators, like you starting, North Star Podcast in the closet. That's creating, taking an idea from your head and creating. What I say to people of color, if you don't have a job, it's the summer and there's grasses that need to be cut, get you 50 yards to cut. You got a decent income for the week. There's people that'll go to work every day not making that. So you have to learn to look in the mirror and create opportunity for yourself and stop looking to other people to help you or to give you a handout. And not saying that people don't need help from time to time. I'm in agreement with that, but we have to try our best to be self-sufficient.
And it's also that what it means to be black in America is also distorted and disviewed.
Yes.
What it means to be black in America to most black people is I have to react when someone says the N-word, and you can't date white women. Those are the two most pertinent issues in African. Police violence, no white person can say the N-word, and dating a white woman. That's the head of, as long as I can manage that good, then I can be black. That's crazy.
But let me add to that though, Simba. Hold that thought. We talking about what it means to be black. Let's add this. Why is it that every negative image, everything negative and ignorant, is tied to being black? That's what our youth has made. That's why I want to talk about self-identification. That's what our youth has defined blackness to be. That's never been who we are. That's never been what we were. And that's not who we are now. So why does not dressing for success? Meaning it doesn't mean you got to wear a suit and tie every day, but at least know how to put a suit and tie on when you need to. Care about how you're presenting yourself and not have your ass and your butt and your drawers hanging out with poop stains all in them. Don't nobody want to see that. I don't want to see
Right.
you crack. That's not beautiful. You know, no knock to the ladies in the strip club. I salute you. I've been there. You know, I have to admit, but I don't want to see you walking down the street, nor do I want to see my daughter at school with the outfit on that I saw the girl at the strip club on last night. You understand what I'm saying? So we
Right.
want to imitate everything that's in the video. We want to imitate everything that suggests we have monetary things, keyword things, things that we think are tied to wealth. Those things have absolutely nothing to do with wealth. So we have
Well,
to change the attitudes of the youth. Go ahead.
right. I want to chime in on that too, because what we have to start doing is LeBron James is doing it. With him creating the school, you can already see Puffy like, I did the Harlem School. You can already see that sense. When I say Minnesota Wave started my hashtags, I believe that all that has to happen is we have to put the energy out there. By LeBron James opening the school, it almost makes it cool where people are looking at you like, damn, bro, you got all that money. You ain't opening no school. You know, like LeBron opened the school. And that's what we have to start doing as far as the people, like I say, that's in power, that's making the most money. They have to set the standard of what it means to be black. You know, so if you're not doing that, then you look silly and you look uncool and you look corny. Because as I said, African Americans, we set the standard for what cool and what is corny with our hip hop music. So that's what I say. When we start going, that's why brothers still talking about I'm flipping keys and I'm selling dope and I'm rocking around. You still talking about that, brother? You know that ain't the lifestyle. That was NWA. They didn't understand the power of what they was doing. They didn't understand that somebody in China would be listening to them. But brother, you know that selling dope right now is not good.
Come on,
You know
that's
what I
played out. I mean, come on, man.
It's played out.
That's
Ain't
played
nobody
out.
The plug no more. The plug is the police.
I went down.
For all the street people watching the conversation shop, the plug is the police. Okay, it's not a matter. It's not a matter of if he can get you. It's a matter of if he wants to get you. He'll
When
let
he's
you
gonna
sell dope
get
for
you.
7 years. Yeah, he'll let you sell dope for 7 years, and then he'll be like, "Oh, I need a bus. Get him."
Come
You know
on,
what
man.
mean?
I
So-
went down South Simba, and I saw the little guys on the corner, man. And I went up to one of the little guys, Simba, and I had to tell him. I said, I didn't even know people still did crack. I thought crack was whack. I
Right.
mean, no knock
Right.
to the people that, you know, I know people that do crack, you need help. No knock to that. I don't mean any harm, but crack is
Yeah,
whack.
but-
I didn't believe
Yeah,
people
that
still
should
did
be out.
crack.
That should be outplayed. But
I thought that was
that's
played
part
out
of our
with-
culture, though.
Yeah.
It's okay for us to be part of the prison drug culture, which goes back to why I said I didn't want to do the hip hop thing anymore, because I felt that I understood what hip hop was being used for. It's a tool. You know, it's a tool to be used to funnel African Americans into privatized prisons for the people who invest in these things. And it makes perfect sense. The only problem is, how is it that the people that have the power, the puffies, Jay-Z has title? You would think that all African Americans would be trying to get over the title so we can centralize our hip hop power. No, we still got him over here on Universal, him over here on Warner Brothers.
But it's the divide and conquer mentality. It's
the
I'm gonna
divide
get
and conquer
mine,
mentality.
and you
And
got
the
to
thing
get
with
yours.
African Americans is that kills me is we know so much about it. That's what kills me. Man, the police is the KKK. Then why do you look for them and you're so shocked when they kill us? If you know and you walk around all day saying the police is the KKK, then why are you shocked and even amazed when
Simba,
they
I
give
said
guns?
I got to dive in, man. I said this one of my friends the other day. I said, let's go to any hood, right? We go in the hood. I walk into my family member, you know, any of one of my young crazy family members' homes, right? They gonna hop in the car, white tee. They've been blowing, smoking, you know what, all day,
Yeah.
reeking, smelling all day. Hop in the car. Now I've been smoking in the car all day, all night, months. Car smell like the smoke shop.
Yeah.
Then he hop in the car, been driving for a year, no driver's license. Okay, other guys in the car, you know, looking like they ready to just run up in the store and just take
Dreadlocks
something.
everywhere. I know what you're
Hear me
talking
out.
about.
About
Dreadlocks
to
everywhere.
take something, but then wait a minute now. Then you run the red light, but it ain't your fault that you got pulled over. It ain't your fault that you going to jail. Them people set you up and they did something to you. See, that mentality I have a problem with, because that's a
Right.
mentality of not taking responsibility for your own actions and things that you've done to yourself. And that stupidity is what I think one of the main things we have to break.
Or we can wake up and make a choice as African Americans. See, another thing that I realized, a lot of the things that we do naturally that have become criminal or become uncolonial or become uncivilized, That's part of who we are as black people. That's why I say, if African Americans are tired of this American way of life, I want to smoke a blunt and I want to sit on my porch and I want to speed. I want to have my dreadlocks out and I want to live a thug lifestyle. Let's go back to Africa because we can do that in Africa.
Right.
Nobody would have a problem with it because it's recognized. It's part of the African way. When they see us riding, they won't pull us over. That's what I'm saying. But if you're going to be in this country, that's the part that African Americans don't understand. This is not our country. This is Anglo-Saxon white people's country. They fought wars. They did all kinds of stuff.
I got to digress with you from there, Simba. You know, I say we were here when everybody got here. So that's a whole conversation I'm invite you back to have with me. But, you know, I agree. You know, I think I can't agree with, I respectfully say that it's equally our country as it is theirs.
Okay, I respectfully say I disagree.
Right,
Something is only yours that you fight for. If you didn't physically fight, that's why I say the Civil War, it could have been ours. It could have been ours, bro, if we would have been on the Civil War and we would have fought that war, right? But the fact that we ain't never got them up, just like in the UFC, you sit and watch UFC fighters, right? Mm-hmm. They fight it out, and even the loser gets respect from the winner. He shakes his hand and says, man, you are a worthy adversary. African Americans have not got that, not only from the world, but we haven't got that from white people here in America. That's why we're going through this beef, is because they don't respect us, and we shouldn't be respected. We have all the power in the world, we have all the knowledge in the world, and now we're free, and we want to run around and blame things on a movement that had nothing to do with us. We want to march because Martin Luther King marched. That's the only thing he could do. He didn't have athletes, he didn't have YouTubers, he didn't have millions and millions of dollars, so he had to march. We should be doing something else in order to get our point across.
I love that. I love that. Hold that thought. We'll be right back on The Conversation Shop. Hi, welcome back to The Conversation Shop. I'm here with my very special guest, Mr. Simba Ali. Simba, welcome back. Hey, we're going to dive right back into a topic that I know is dear to your heart and dear to mine. That topic is, you know, how do we reach the youth, but how do we reach the guys in the streets? You know, the ones that we call the thugs, the hustlers, the drug dealers. You know, how do we reach them? How do we educate them and get the respect from them in order to tell them that there's strength in organization, there's strength in organizing, there's political power in organizing, how you can take all of the negative that you're doing in a community to earn money in your quest for the quote unquote bag, and you can start creating businesses through the same organization, through the same people, and create jobs and wealth and rebuild your community and be a positive in your community. So I want to hear you elaborate on what do you think we can do to reach those street kids. And again, I want to add, you know, it has to be people like you and I that come from those spaces. You know, we grew up from there. You know, a suit and tie doesn't change, you know, what's underneath. You understand what I'm saying? And you have to remember where you come from. I try to remind myself all the time, you know, if I remember to be hungry, remember what it's like to be hungry. When I remember what it's like to have lights off, when I remember what it's like not to have, it reminds you of spaces you don't want to ever go back to. And it keeps you focused. So again, let's talk about that. I want you to elaborate on that topic a little bit.
Well, what I feel that the street brothers, such as not even such as myself, the ones who even pushed the line and went farther, and have maybe actually done some things that I haven't done yet. The brothers who really live an entrenched street lifestyle, they have to start coming forth and speaking what they know is inside their hearts. You know what I mean? The street movement actually started from the Black Panther movement. Mm-hmm. It was an off branch. Bloods, Crips, GDs, Vice Lords are just babies of the Black Panther movement who didn't have any leadership. And their only leadership was the CIA, who was saying, here, take this cocaine.
Right.
You know, that's where the leadership got disbanded. So that's why I'm on Street Cats so much, because I believe deep down inside, there's still some of that, you know, pro-blackness of I should be doing something right. They just are hopeless. So what I feel that the Street Cats who have power, have influence, have to do, start pushing us towards that Jay-Z 444 talk. That's what happened. He set the standard with 444, where a street guy was talking about it's time to ascend. And if you remember, there was a little bit of backlash. You had some cats saying, yeah, I feel Jay-Z. And you had a lot of street cats saying, I'm still keeping the money up to my ear, man. We ain't on 444 and this. That element has to cease and desist. And it has to be, and there's no other way that it can be done other than the other half has to put pressure on them. It has to be a fight. I did on my show, a show where Charles Oakley was telling Ron Artest, there's a basketball game called The Three. Ron Artest didn't want to come off the court. Everybody was scared of Ron Artest. Nobody wanted to challenge him. Oakley looked him in his eye and said, we will fight right now, but you're getting off the court. What do you want to do? Do you want to fight or whatever? But you are going to come sit on the bench. And eventually, Ron Artest, he huffed and puffed and he sat on the bench. I think that the gangsters who know inside, yes, I've shot a gun, I did some prison time, I maybe sold some drugs, but I know that that black people need to change, and I don't want another generation of these gangsters. They have to start leaning on the ones, turn up, y'all N-words is old, y'all old.
Right.
Okay, well, shut up, young brother. You know what I'm saying? We're going to tell you what's right, and if we have to fight, whatever we have to do. That's the biggest thing. It's the fear, because if you look at it, you say, well, how did we lose the rules? Like you said, there used to be Bumpy Johnson, and there used to be all these rules. Well, what happened? The OGs got scared. They came home, they wanted to get a good job, and they wanted to all that. They didn't want no conflict with the young ones out there. Instead of coming out saying,
they locked all the leadership on the street up, number one. So that's how the chaos started. They put all the leadership in jail, the ones that kept all the violence and all the negativity from coming into our communities. That leadership was all locked up, not saying, anything was positive about what they were doing, but there were things that kept order.
Right, just like Larry Hoover organizing voting and all this other kind of stuff, where it was a time where, okay, we're gangsters, but when the call comes out, when black people put the bat signal out, we come. Now it's to the point where we can put the bat signal out and our gangsters don't come. And that's the problem. Okay, we understand y'all living y'all gangster lifestyle, but you guys got to understand, you are our frontline soldiers. Everybody doesn't have the ability to carry a gun. Do you understand that that's why the neo-Nazis and the KKK are still existing in America? Because they are racist white people, which is the foundation of America. They are their Bloods and their Crips. So you're like, well, how is the neo-Nazis even still around? Because they make sure, in case anything gets out of order, those are our soldiers who will come out and just start shooting and have that ability. That's who our Bloods and Crips are. You know what I'm saying? They're not supposed to be shooting us. They're supposed to be doing whatever they're doing, redeveloping that money, sending it back, washing it clean. So I was so shocked when I'm sitting here watching all these drug kingpin movies. Why are y'all not going to the Muslim mosques? Why are you drug peddling? Yeah, we made $1 million a day. Well, you didn't go donate $500,000 to the church, because he can take that cash and go
to the
do stuff.
community.
He ain't got to tell nobody where I got it from. Yeah, brothers was praying today. You know what I mean? That's the thing. It's like, if y'all gonna be gangsters, but be gangsters for us. Don't be gangsters against us. Don't kill us. But when a neo-Nazi decides to shoot up a school or do something, then if y'all want to go get gangster, I don't know what happened. We'll try to tell them to chill.
Right, but this is the thing that gets me. We have that gangsterism, right? But we're killing ourselves. We're murdering us at an alarming rate, and been murdering us. But we're not doing marches about that. We're not picketing about that. We act like that's normal. And, to go back to the other conversation, what you're talking about is self-hate. Why do we hate ourselves and hate our own communities the way that we do? And the reason I say we hate each other is because we don't put value on our own lives. We don't put value on our own communities, because if we did, we'd go back to those communities and build them up. But what we do is we'll put money into our adopted communities and build those communities up, build those schools up. We'll do those kinds of things, instead of going back and buying the projects, you know what I'm saying, refurbishing them, making them into livable situations for poor people, and creating a space to subsidize housing where people can live and be safe, and not let them be havens for drugs and drug dealers and negativeness. You understand? We're never going to get away from having drugs and the lower echelons and people that are misguided and lost. Now, we're always going to have that, but we always have to strive for better.
Right. Well, the self-hatred thing plays into the way self-hatred is the only way the African-American has been able to get into the entertainment or access to money in America. And it made sense in the beginning. When I look at my brothers and, I look at my forefathers who had to do minstrel shows,
Step and
fetch. They had to break down the walls in order to do certain things. But I think that's woven way too deep into African Americans, where in order to get success, you have to hate yourself, and you have to lose and leave that African American stuff behind. You know, even the gangs had to take on that. That's why they've separated from us. You got to understand, like I said, the first gangs come from Black Panthers.
Mm-hmm.
But once I start selling cocaine and I start selling crack, I have to say, man, stop talking that revolutionary stuff because it hurts my spirit. When you start talking about forget that, man. We making money, okay? And it goes back to athletics. Jackie Robinson, Joe Louis, they all have to be a certain way in order, and you have to show, I don't like that old African. I'm trying to be a good black guy. You know
Okay, let's talk about that. But this is the thing that throws me, right? I'm going to go back to the national anthem and kneeling. For all the positiveness with kneeling, I'm looking at these athletes going, dude, y'all hypocrites. Y'all a bunch of ducks. Because most of y'all are not doing anything in your communities. You're not putting money into the community. So after the first year, you know, and all the hoorah about it, I'm in agreement. And I'm just going to put it bluntly. And most people may not like this. If you work for me, and you're coming into my place of business, you know, and you're doing things that disrupt me earning money in my place of business, I'm going to tell you either got to stop it or you got to go. You got to get out of here. You understand what I'm saying? You got to get out of here. I want to listen to you.
Don't come to me talking about I have to fix a community from where you came from.
Because you should. What are you doing to fix the community?
That's why I'm giving you money so you can fix it because I shouldn't have to fix it. Well, okay, let's time out. Let's do it the other way then. You come fix the white communities then. You know what I'm saying? What kind of sense does that make? You're supposed to fix the communities from which you live and which you come. Stop running. But why does it mean for African Americans to get money and go run to the
But let's go back to our first conversation. Remember what I said? Landmines and potholes, right? This is our condition. Every single day outside of our door, there's a hole. We know the hole's there. It's dug by someone that doesn't look like us or a system that doesn't look like us, but we know the door is there. We walk outside of our door. Instead of walking over the hole, we fall in the hole every day. And then we look up to the person that dug the hole, that's vested in us being in the hole, and we ask him or her to help us. That's called ignorance. That's called stupidity. And that's what we're describing. We do that in the NFL. That's what the players are doing with the owners. You're looking to them to solve a problem that, quite frankly, we should be looking into ourselves and solving the problems ourselves. Now, bringing attention to police brutality, I think that's great. But let me say this. Why not bring attention to black-on-black crime?
Right. Because the police only kill us on the weekends. We kill each other Monday through Friday.
Thank you.
Police kill us on Saturdays and Sundays, and we act like that's the biggest thing going. No, it's 5 days. You know, we'll get to the weekends, but let's clean up this 5 days. Because the reason why police killing us, I believe now, the police have always been killing African Americans.
Always been killing us for years.
You got to believe the first police were slave catchers. So, you know, when my slave ran away,
Overseer.
I called the police, he'd go get him. So that's not that. But the reason why we kill each other now is because they look at each other and say, look how you guys kill each other. Y'all don't value. So it's silly. Black Lives Matter to who? Not to little Trigger Man around the corner who's going to be marching, by the way, at this Black Lives Matter rally. Little Trigger Man will be out there. He'll have a Black Lives Matter shirt on, and then tomorrow he'll go shoot an African American.
Well, let's go back to the Black Panther. You talked about the Black Panther movement, right? You talked about a movement that originally started to protect black people from being murdered and killed by the police. Yes. So they learned the Constitution and started picking up arms to protect themselves. Then what they started was AFDC, Aid to Families with Defended Children. That's a Black Panther program that the United States government adopted, but they tell you that this organization was horrible. They built pride in understanding where you come from, pride in your family, taking care of your family, all these positive things, and then that organization was demonized, and then the product of that is all this negativity and killing and murder in our communities because we don't have anyone in that community or haven't had elders in the community. You and I are elders now. That's our responsibility to go back and teach and educate them, but elders to tell the youth what they should be doing and not just telling them, but walking in it and showing them in our walk and showing them in our talk and knowing like, hey, I come from the same circumstance that you do. And
and even with the gangs, like you just said, down to the Crips. Crips meant community, resistance, and progress.
Yes.
You know, that's what it meant. You know, I mean, even the Bloods, they say Damu. That's a Swahili word. I mean, if you want to break down everything with gangs, it's rooted in the struggle. The only difference is just like anything else. Think about hip hop. I mean, let's talk about it. Hip hop. Look how back to fight the power that
Yes.
white man. Then they get that money in here.
Then the devil, that's the
niggas
devil,
with
right?
attitude,
Devil come
yeah.
into play. Kill,
Straight
kill,
out of
kill,
Compton,
shoot,
and you
shoot,
got
shoot.
yeah, you got the thug element. So that's what happened everywhere. I think they figured that out. They used to have to kill our leaders. Bang, 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 Fred Hampton. Bang, 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 Malcolm X. Bang, 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 Malcolm X. Martin Luther King. Now they're like, hold on, that's too ugly and it makes us, why don't we just pay them? Because that's all they want. They don't know, they're so disconnected from their community, and they have an individualistic mindset that is crazy. I don't know how black people think like this. They think if one makes it through, that helps the collective. That's crazy. If one ant makes it through, that don't help. If one dog gets in my house, that don't help. If I make him my pet,
But if that same dog, but if that dog prepares the way for another dog, then he's done his job. They've taught us not to prepare the way.
They taught us not to prepare the way, and that's the whole process of individual success, which is the only thing African Americans have mastered. Individual success. I don't know how to do it collectively, and that's because I don't like being around black people. And why? Why don't I like being around black people? Well, it goes back to the HNIC syndrome. We have to be the HNIC. There's no HAIC. There's no head Asian in charge. There's no head European in charge.
Nope.
No, everything is done with the board and the collective. It's you black people who are waiting on one leader. It's you who are waiting on the one best MC, who's the best basketball player. You sitting here worshiping Michael Jordan, and you got this LeBron James around here.
Thank you. Michael Jordan did nothing for the community.
They never did nothing for your people. But if you ask the average African American, we don't even got that. See, African Americans are so lost, which is why I got a lot of work to do on the North Star TV. Y'all make sure y'all check it out. Is because if you ask the average African American who's the best basketball player, he can't even put aside that Michael Jordan ain't do nothing for me. LeBron James is doing things for me. So, and not to mention he got 3 rings.
Come on, man. We got young kids. We got young kids going to school, putting Biggie on the same platform as Malcolm X. So
yes.
That's crazy. But real quickly, Simba, before we end, leave my audience real quick with some words of wisdom before I close out.
I always try to tell people common sense. Common sense is the best form of currency these days because you can use it anywhere. Use your brain. You know, don't be one way. I'm not this, I'm not that. Give me the situation and let me come to a sound, logical conclusion about it. And when it comes to African Americans, it's over. It's over. It's over us riding white people's coattails. It's time for us to create our own, or we will suffer the demise of the dodo bird. It's a fact. We will evolve, and we will go with everybody else. Asians are creating for their own. Whites creating for their own. Native Americans, if you even want to watch the new series on Paramount, creating for their own. Everybody is doing for their own. We are the only people who are trying to be with and help everybody instead of collectivizing and moving. And if we don't do it, we're going to suffer the same fate as the dinosaurs.
Well, Simba, I want to thank you for being my guest here on The Conversation Shop.
Thank you for having me, brother. This was fun. I can't wait to do it again.
You're definitely going to be on here again, baby. But guys, I want to thank you for joining us on The Conversation Shop. See you next time.